Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy. In the studio with us today is Dwayne Manuel, who teaches painting and drawing at TOCC, and he's a professional artist. He's collaborated and exhibited and been commissioned by organizations such as Nike, the Tucson Museum of Art, the Heard Museum, and many, many others. Dwayne, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Hello, it's great to be here.
I'm super excited. Your art is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
I love it. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, how you got interested in art, and anything else you want to say at the beginning.
On Chugik, Dwayne Manuel, on Amajut, on Akamer Juvut, on your Og Ob Chugik, Coleman Manuel, on your Ob Chugik, Alice Manuel, on your Vosk Ob Chugik, Lazarus Manuel Butt, on your Gagaa Ob Chugik, Hilda Manuel Butt, on your Babaa Ob Chugik, Wayne Santobut, on your Hur Ob Chugik, Audrey Santobut. Good day. My name is Dwayne Manuel. I come from the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community where I was born and raised and spent pretty much majority of my adolescent life on the reservation in Salt River. I am Uncle Alkamet Otham, which is the northernmost Otham tribe, with my relatives being from Gila River, the Thona Otham, the Haichit Otham, from Phoenix here all the way down to Sonora, Mexico. And that's what a lot of my work talks about. But speaking of my work, pretty much been drawing all my life. You know, it's something I've had a consistent need to do. Just more of an obsession, I guess you would say. And it just kind of stuck with me. You know, it's just something I did in my free time when I was younger, which I had a lot of free time, you know, back then. And it's something I needed to do and just kind of polish as I moved along. So when it came upon graduation from high school, that's where I had to, you know, we come to those crossroads. What do we do next with your life? And I really didn't have no example of what an artist was. I mean, let me rewind that. I had an example of artists, right, in my family. My mother's a basket weaver. My grandmothers were basket weavers. My father would draw, but his was more like doodling. I see him draw on TV, our TV guides, and he would draw faces on, put a black thing on the tooth, tattoos, facial hair. So I'd seen that, and I had an uncle who was a really awesome drawer. When I was little, I would draw with him as well. So I had artists in my family, but I didn't know what you can do with it. To me, it was just something they did, and then they went and did their work or did something else. You know what I mean? A hobby, I guess you would say. So I was consistently recommended the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico by instructors at my high school, which was called Desert Eagle Secondary School in Salt River. And it was them who kind of put the seed in my brain, right? But at the time, like I said, I didn't know what an artist really was or what they were supposed to be doing or how to go about even being an artist. So I made the decision to take, I guess you would say, the road less traveled, at least for my friends and people I knew at the time, when it comes to higher education. So I applied. Well, I went to the Scottsdale Community College to kind of do some general classes, but then I eventually transferred to IAIA in Santa Fe because I just I was curious to see what this art school was about. And, so being so young then, like I said, I was like almost looking into the great beyond, didn't really know. I didn't see, there wasn't no path already set by others that I can lead as an example. So, jumped right in, took the chance, I guess you would say. Frightened, but at the same time excited too, because it was just a whole new world that I was going into, So it took me 6 years to get my bachelor's degree from the Institute of American Indian Arts because there were some hiccups in between, life in our journeys, plans don't go as expected. Sometimes you had to take a few steps backwards. So I obtained my bachelor's from the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe in 2010. And then I moved back home here to Arizona. And it's here at Arizona where I got a job. I was working security. And then I quickly lost inspiration and motivation to be doing kind of artwork. Because now that I think back, I was pretty much drawing consistently every day, painting every day, being at the Institute of American Indian Arts. And even before that, as a youngster, I would draw pretty much every day too as well. So getting like a real job and not being able to create, it took its toll on me both emotionally and spiritually. I think artists will recognize other artists' struggles when it comes to creating, that not having given yourself the time to create is something that will cause depression, because it did that for me. And so I was just working 12-hour shifts, night times, right? 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and sleeping all day and then waking up and repeat, right? That's what a job is. So I decided I didn't want to do that no more, and I wasn't ready to be an adult, I guess you would say. And so I applied for my master's, and I applied at both ASU and U of A, got into both of them, but I decided that U of A was the way to go, just because I was far enough from home, but also close at the same time. ASU was real close to home. I would be too distracted. So making that decision, I went to U of A School of Art, and that's where I got my master's degree in 2014. And then after that, that's where teaching came in. They taught me how to teach at U of A. That was part of the master's program. And from there, I landed a job at TOCC after that, and so that's where I've been. But before that, actually, I taught high school art for a year in my community in Salt River, but then went to college level teaching, which is where I'm much more comfortable at, and I enjoy.
Well, the students want to be there, right?
Exactly.
In college.
Exactly.
Versus high school.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard like the most amazing things about you from students at TOCC that take your classes. They think you are the most, amazing artist, but just a tremendous teacher, an educator and mentor. And for people wanting to do that. I mean, honestly, before I even met you, I had heard that about you, that you're incredibly well respected and kind and patient and just a great educator and a great artist. But I want to take a few steps back, and I want to ask you, so like you talked about your mom and your grandma, that they're basket weavers, and your dad kind of doodled. So like when you were little, did you doodle, or did you just like wake up one day and pick up a pencil and draw, or whatever medium you were using, pencils, I assume, or something, markers, and just go and somebody look at your art and go, wow, he's like really talented? Or were you like 5 years old? Were you 10 or 12 and you spent your hours drawing in class? Like you were supposed to be paying attention in math class and you were drawing. So what did that look like?
So I think at first I was doodling. I wasn't really making these masterpieces, but I was just kind of doing little images here and there of scenes or things that I liked. I drew a lot of Ninja Turtles. I remember when I was really young. I've always had a fascination with skulls, so I've always drew those since I was young. But I say it's doodling because I remember like in elementary, even in junior high school, that I would do it for myself. Like I said, I had a need to do it, so I would do it, and then I would just crumple it up and throw it in the trash. And my friends would be like, "Hey, why do you always do that? You take this time to create this awesome drawing, but then you just crumple it up and throw it away." You know what I mean? And so I think that's where I think that it was just for me at the time. It was like this obsession or this compulsion just to get it out, or even just do the action of it, and then okay, it's done. Therefore, I'm throwing it away because I have no use for it anymore. And that's where I think I started to learn more after high school, and I first started taking my first college level art classes, that there's fine art stuff that you really take time, process, and then it's a piece, and then it goes on to wherever it goes next. So I think that's earlier on how I would draw. It was just for myself, I guess you would say. And then afterwards, that's where when my education started coming in, where I said, okay, you can sell these, you can make a living off your artwork. That's when I started to see at IAIA where starting to know these artists, these successful artists. My instructors were successful artists, and then the whole community in Santa Fe. If you don't know, Santa Fe is like the what do you call it? Well, the Santa Fe Indian Market is like the Super Bowl of the Indian arts. Yeah. Everybody from around the world comes there, and so you get to meet all these artists and things like that. And so there's where I started to see these examples now of people who are living off their artwork.
But obviously your teachers, you said in high school, saw something in you and your talent, or they wouldn't have recommended you go to Santa Fe, to IAIA, right?
Yes.
So obviously you weren't crumpling it up there in high school, or if you were, they were seeing it before it was crumpled up. But they obviously saw something in you, and I don't think there's that many people that they recommend to go to IAIA. I mean, I know that that's a really prestigious school. They don't take a lot of people. You have to be incredibly talented to be invited, to go, to attend, to graduate. So hats off to you. Pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So obviously that was your path, and then you went there, and then you came back and you got your master's. What would you define? I looked at your art, and it is absolutely beautiful. I love the political pieces, and I don't want to talk too much about politics, but what would you let's talk about your mediums. You do acrylic paint. I saw you do digital. You do some spray paint. I didn't see very much, and maybe you do and I just didn't see it, a lot of like either charcoal or pencils or anything like that, or are you more a painter?
I am a drawer first. I am a painter second. So a lot of the times the charcoal and the graphite that you're talking about, those are tools that I use in a preliminary process. So all of the drawings and the sketching I do is with charcoal or graphite. So those stuff I don't really post or share too much because those are preliminary steps. I usually show the final product. So what you'll see on my website or on social media are the final pieces. But there's a whole process before that involves those materials that you're talking about. And those materials are my first love, especially graphite, the pencil. The number 2 pencil, that's a graphite. But growing up, that's what I first started using and learning from when it comes to doing gradations, all that good stuff when it comes to drawing. So it wasn't until I think my first college class at the Scottsdale Community College where I did an acrylic painting for the first time, 2002, I believe, maybe 2003, somewhere around there. And it is there where I was like, okay, well, this is painting. This is what it takes and involves. And it's something I wanted to get better at because I wasn't satisfied with my first painting, the first acrylic painting I did, because I've seen examples already of what artists have done with acrylic. I was like, okay, I want to get to that level. That was my idea, because I could get to that level in drawing, but it's not the same thing because drawing is grayscale, and
painting is hard.
Yeah,
the colors and the shading and the gradations and it smears. I mean, it dries out. I think it's a hard medium.
Yeah, it is.
It's a hard medium to work in.
And it's a time-based medium too, because especially living here in Arizona, it's hot, and so the paint dries fast. So you got to think about time. You're like, okay, I gotta put my paints on my palette, jump back and forth, and get as much as you can out before it fully dries. So that part also, it's a whole dance you got to learn when you're doing acrylic painting, especially here in Arizona.
Do you do? I know you do some murals and some other large pieces, but when you're on your paintings, is it canvas or what are you using?
Yeah, primarily canvas when I'm doing acrylic paintings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how would you define your art style? Would you say I could be totally wrong. I would say it's like a contemporary, I don't even know, contemporary?
Yeah, exactly. It is very contemporary. I feel I try to make it, contemporary because I'm talking about contemporary stuff. So if I were to define my art style, which is kind of a tough thing to do, but it jumps between realism, also abstraction, also surrealism, maybe even pop surrealism. Graffiti is a huge inspiration of mine. And so if you were to use all those ingredients and then add themes of like politics, art history, contemporary issues. I even sprinkle horror in the mix and humor as well. If you throw all those in the pot, I think that's what you would cook up to make my style.
I think it's pretty cool. All right. So, and I know, like you were talking before, like how you start with the graphite. The pieces that I saw, the basket pieces, how do you do that mathematically? Like, how do you even figure that out? I mean, that's like, if you're looking at the basket, it was all tessellations and it was all, right? It's all math. You have to draw that first.
Yes.
That's like really hard and time consuming.
Yeah, it's all visual. I guess you would say visual. Visual measuring. You can pull out a ruler and measure to try to get as precise as you can, but for me, the process, I know that the following at the end is going to be a little more wild, so I feel that kind of takes the pressure off of me to not be so precise in the beginning process stages of a painting. So it's all sketched out, but it's all visual. So, and I'm also thinking about balance too at the same time. So if I'm visually measuring shape on one side, I would do it to the opposite end. So it's symmetrical with those basket designs, but at the same time, I'm visually doing it. And it's a whole process, and then because there's a lot of layering that's involved with those basket paintings that you're talking about, especially the acrylic basket paintings that are on canvas. Those ones are the ones that have a lot of visual measuring, and at the same time, they have a whole lifespan of process. So there's probably 40 layers of paint on one basket painting. But on the opposite end of the murals of the basket, those ones are a little bit more, I guess you would say, precise when it comes to my idea, because it's on a wall and it's a bigger canvas. It takes a little more preliminary drawing, a little more planning, and so those ones they kind of stick to my idea that I have in the preliminary stage. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. Okay, so like on the basket one, and you said there's like 40 layers of paint. How long does this, from beginning to end, so from concept to prep to your graphite drawing it out, figuring out the math, which I could never do, to painting it, to getting it to market, are we talking like a couple thousand hours?
It could be. Yeah, it could be, especially if it's a larger piece. Those ones take the longest, but it takes a while. Well, so let me I can summarize it in weeks. I've once got a painting like that done in 3 weeks. Thankfully, we're in Arizona where paint dries instantly, so that helps out a lot. I've tried to paint when it was cold, like during the winter time, and in my studio, my garage studio, the paint just takes forever to dry. And I want to get to the next layer, but I had to wait for it to dry. So, I can get a painting done in about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on what I'm doing.
Do you do like one? So like if let's say you're doing one of the basket and then you want to go to one of your more surreal, do you just like do the basket start to finish and then move to the next piece? Or do you like, I'll do like a couple hours on the basket and then I'm like, nah, then I think I'll do like a surreal piece. Do you go back and forth or do you just like go get that one thing done?
I used to be able to do that. I used to be able to jump back and forth as a younger artist. I can have like 5 paintings going at once, and I would jump back and forth. But as I get older, and I guess I'm maturing in my process, I find I feel like I only have to focus on one at a time. It's interesting. It's an interesting change because I can remember doing that, and I see my students doing that, and I'm like, man, to be where I'm at now, like mentally, but then if I could be able to do that. I wish I could, but unfortunately, like I don't know. It's weird. I have to do one at a time now. I have to do one project at a time too.
But your art is, I mean, it is. I think it's breathtaking, and I think the mindset of, let's say, going from something surreal surreal to like the basket painting. Like the surreal is more fluid, I guess, more rounded versus the basket, which was so precise, and the angles. I mean, totally different.
Yeah.
I'm not an artist, but anyway.
Yeah, no, so you get it.
All right. So what's been your favorite piece? I know you did some stuff for like the Herd, for Tucson, for U of A. I saw the piece that you commissioned for, I think it was like a Regents medal. Mm-hmm. I saw the Nike pieces. So what's been your very favorite? Or are they all like children and you don't have a favorite?
So I can say that my favorite pieces that I have done have been stuff that I've done for my community in Salt River. I've got an opportunity to design some T-shirts for certain departments and enterprises from my reservation, my community. And what happens with those is usually they're giveaways. They're kind of a way to giving back to the community. So I'm very proud to be part of those situations where I get to create an original piece of artwork where the people get to wear on them.
Awesome.
So I've done that twice so far. Maybe I've done it more than a few times, but the past two have been probably my favorite because, of course, I'm more established as an artist and I have a better sense of design. So the current work that comes out, I feel like it not only does it kind of show where I'm at artistically, but it also gives a chance for the community to wear those with pride too. And so when I see those, I'm very proud to see people wearing those in the community when I'm out and about and stuff like that. So those are probably my most proudest.
That's awesome.
Pieces of artworks, but there's others too as well. The murals that I do create for my community also I'm very proud of as well.
So those are all at Salt River?
Yeah, pretty majority of them are in Salt River. But I'm also proud of the stuff that I've done that represents my people in the outside of the reservation, like working with doing the T-shirts for the Phoenix Suns. I'm very proud of that because I get to represent my people here in this area. We call it Skikig, but it's Phoenix. And, Phoenix Suns being an NBA team, that is also a proud moment for me as well to represent my people on that level. And then the Nike stuff, too, as well, doing the shoes for Super Bowl in 2015. So
those are all pretty impressive. I mean, let me say, Phoenix Suns and Nike Super Bowl, I mean, how much bigger?
Yeah.
I mean, what a resume. I mean, pretty awesome. I saw that Salt River just put out something, and we actually put it on the Native Health Facebook page. Salt River had like a listing of all the murals, like in the community that people could go out and see and photograph and social media. I don't know if you saw that, but they put out a list of like all the different murals.
Yeah, I saw that. That was for a mural project that happened recently. I wasn't a part of it because it conflicted with my work at TLCC, but yeah, there was a whole grip of murals that went up by different artists who worked with the youth in Salt River.
Yep.
So that's the one you're talking about.
Yep.
Which
but your
pretty
stuff's
cool.
still there too, so
I've worked
they
in
can
the
see
community.
all of it.
Yeah,
theirs and yours.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
We'll continue our interview with Dwayne Manuel after this short break. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 8800 North 22nd Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org. Native Talk Arizona returns after this song. You are listening to Peace of Mind by Smokey D. Palmtree.
Now that you're a professor, how do you nurture those students that you see coming through that have talent? Do you encourage them to continue with their art, or how does that work, being a professor now?
Yeah, I see talent in all of my students. Every one of them has talent. Of course, they're all at different levels. Some are just starting, some are been doing it for a while. And one thing I found out is that when I teach, especially in painting, both painting and drawing, is that these are techniques and strategies that all these students have done already. The only thing is they don't have a term for it or a name for it. Like, I don't know how many times I showed a student a technique and they're like, oh yeah, I do that in my paintings outside. I was, yeah, see but now you have a name for it. You know what to talk, you know how to talk about it when you're, talking to somebody about your artwork. You can now put a name to a face. You can put, a name to the technique. So what I do is I understand that everyone's either starting out, they want to get better, or they just want to keep their skills warm. So the way I do it is, in the critique phase of all my classes, we have critiques where we talk about the work, and I try to teach the students how to talk about the work and explain. And it's there where I feel the encouragement should come in. I have had professors in my classes in the past where they tear you down, I think, then build you up. But I just like to kind of continue building them from where they're at, and of course talk about bad habits they may have at the same time. It's all just critique, And
like, what's a bad habit?
Bad habit is a lot of it has to do with mainly how they paint. So for me, when I say bad habits, more opinion that I think, but I try to make things easier for them or smarter for them to do. So like for instance, in painting, a lot of students will focus on the positive space, which is like the image. Let's say I'm painting you're the positive space, everything, all your details, your hair, your eyes, they'll focus on that. Then they would focus on the background, and oftentimes the background or the environment is a second thought. And so they don't pay much attention, but you got to utilize both positive and negative space to make a fully complete painting or a composition. And so I teach them that you got to put as much care in the positive, the negative, everything around you, and then also as much care in the positive. That way you get a well-balanced composition.
Okay. Versus rather saying like, oh, that's really terrible.
Yeah, okay. Of course.
Okay.
I never say that.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Of course not. Because they're usually not. They're not terrible. It's just improvement. That's all it is.
I mean, really, honestly, what I said, I really meant, and I had heard how you foster your students and how they come out with such a positive sense of themselves and their art due to what you say and how you teach. I really hope you know that. You probably don't know that. I know some of your students, and they've told me about how you teach and what they've learned and what a difference you've made to them. So you should be proud, very proud.
Well, thank you. That is good news.
As a professor. Okay, so I want to know like 2 success stories. One would be for you as an artist, because I know you mentioned like you're really proud of the Suns. Would that be it, or the ones when your community members are wearing your T-shirts? What's your favorite success story as an artist?
Oh wow, I think that I think that being able to get my degrees are both success stories. Both the bachelor's and fine arts, and having my family there and support to kind of show them, because what I do as an artist, I always feel like it's not necessarily for myself. Earlier on I was telling you I was drawing for myself, but as I've grown now, I feel like I have a responsibility to my community. And so with that responsibility, my family's part of my community. So being able to kind of walk up there on the stage and get this degree, I feel like it's a ceremony, which people, natives are big on ceremonies. It kind of shows my family and my community, that I've gone this far. And for me, those are very proud moments, bachelor's and my master's degree. So that's more of, I guess, an educational background. And so, I'm very proud of my students when I see them walk. We just had our TLCC commencement 2 weeks ago, and it's very proud to see my fine arts degree students walk across the stage and get their degree. So I think that is a very proud moment. Those are also my kind of teaching success stories too, right there, seeing my students do that. As an artist, I think that this is a proud moment that was kind of funny. It was at the Phoenix Suns release, is seeing myself on the Jumbotron. And I don't like looking at myself, by the way. That's something I do not like do, even though I do self-portraits all the time for my students and have them do it. I still don't really prefer to look at myself. But just seeing myself on the big screen and on the jumbotron at the Phoenix Suns was cool and proud because that's something I never thought about.
Like how many people? Yeah, like how many people in the world ever get to do that?
Yeah,
very few.
Exactly.
Very few.
Yeah. And they played my video for the Phoenix Suns T-shirt release on there, and then they had me on the. It's a whole crazy experience, but that was kind of one of those maybe selfish pride moments that I've had, where like, okay, I made it this far because I never would have thought that when I was 15, 22,
right? Well,
even 30.
So, what have you got? Are you allowed to say? Do you have anything exciting in the works? Planning anything or?
Well, right now I'm in between projects. I have some things going on with the ASU Labriola, where we're currently planning on an installation of murals inside of their Labriola.
That's cool.
And that's ongoing. Actually, we're on the third phase of that. It's already established. If anybody wants to check out the ASU Labriola, I am also working on mainly stuff for TOCC for work. We have a shell etching workshop coming up this July, so we've been planning for that for this past year, and I guess that's more of on a teaching level.
Is that going to be for like just students?
Yeah, we already have our list filled up. It went out a couple months ago, and it filled up fairly quick with a lot. Well, it was a hard choice picking all the attendees. Then there's small things that I got going on here and there when it comes to like art projects. There is some stuff I have on the back burner that are waiting because a lot of people may not understand this, but a lot of the times I get a project that starts and it doesn't happen until like 3 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
And commissions and things like that. And I know that a lot of bidding and waiting, contracts, and especially the big stuff. Yeah. Do you? And this is just a question. When you were talking about the shell class, the shell etching, I know I saw that, but. Does anybody in town, I don't think anybody does, like, just classes, like, not through TOCC, but, like, has anybody thought, or have you ever thought about doing, like, just classes for the public and charging and saying, hey, I'm going to do a shell etching class, in July, and it's open to the community, charging a fee? I don't know.
I know some shell artists have done it. We have quite a few awesome shell artists nowadays who have done. I'm not a shell artist, by the way. I'm facilitating the workshops, but
another skill, right?
Yeah, it's another skill to learn. But it has been done. People have done it, and it is a very specific art form for autumn because that's it's the form that was passed down, or that has been practiced by the Huagum, the ancestors before us. And so it's a very specific art form for the autumn. And so, depending on the shell etching teacher, it's up to them who they want to share that with.
That would be hard. I think that sounds really hard.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for like your students or people thinking about doing a career in art or even just picking up a paintbrush on the weekend? Like, should it just be do it, don't overthink it, or overthink it and take your time? Or something in the middle.
Well, do it and don't overthink it. If it's just something you want to do, like as a side, like something you have a painting I want to get out, I would say just do it. You know what I mean? If you're just a person who's dabbling in it, or you have an interest in it, but you don't want to put yourself out there like that as an artist, I always say just do it. But if you're a student who you're hungry to be an artist and you want to learn the ins and outs, then I would say take some classes. I mean, You can learn pretty much what I teach you on YouTube nowadays, right? There's tutorials out there.
But you're much nicer.
Yeah.
And very handsome and very engaging. So I would say you, but over YouTube.
Yeah, you need a physical person to be there. Athletes have a coach.
Yeah.
And so it's the same concept. With an instructor of art. What I provide is, of course, my experience. I also provide structure in a class, and then I also provide practice. That's huge, by the way. Practice is needed because practice involves repetition, and then with repetition, the more comfortable you get with the technique or strategy, then the better you get at it. And so that's what I provided in a classroom. Like I said, a lot of these students already done the techniques I've shown them, but they didn't have a name for it.
So so you teach at TOCC. And I know classes open up, and I know there's no cost with tribal ID or CIB or tribal identification. In terms of you talk about practice, and like, I know when I paint, I think it's terrible, and I usually just like paint over it right away so I don't have to keep buying canvases. But like, I guess the advantage would be you would be able to say, you know what, like maybe if you tried a circle or you tried shading, right? That's the kind of thing you're talking about. Like you'd be able to guide somebody and say, you know, maybe there's a way to do a curve or gradation or a tree.
Yeah, absolutely. I show them techniques or strategies for how to do this. You know, if I see them doing thing one way, I will like, oh, that's good, but let's try this way. This might help you out. And so what I find is that also I know my way of doing things, and then maybe I know a couple other ways I can show students to do so. But what I like too with the academic sense is that there's also other instructors that have their way of doing things, because there's no guidebook or a Bible for art, right? It's pretty much up to the individual artists on what they learn and how they want to use it in their artwork. So therefore, it's good that they see other avenues that other artists are taking it to as well. So I have my way of doing things, and I know a couple of other ways I can show students, but another artist might have a totally different way that might resonate with that student.
Okay, I have a couple questions. I want to ask you. One, so what classes do you teach at TOCC?
I teach the upper level drawing and painting classes, like painting 1. I teach painting 1, painting 2, drawing 2, and art appreciation.
Those are more advanced.
Yes.
Not beginning.
No.
Not like.
Just painting 1's the beginning level.
Okay.
Oh, and a color theory.
That sounds hard. Okay. But I do want to talk about your political paintings without talking about politics. I really like the one of Mount Rushmore. Well, of Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good piece, and I liked all of them. But I also liked the one with I think it was a woman with the freeway wrapped around her.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right, it was a woman.
Oh, the man. Yeah.
It was a man with the freeway, and then there was another one where the woman was coming out of the ground. Oh my gosh, what was that one? Sorry. Anyway, the one for, let's say, the one with the freeway, what are you thinking, or what's the message on that one?
That's just the representation of the progress that's building all around us, especially for me being in Salt River. You know, Salt River is surrounded by the cities of Scottsdale, Tempe, Mesa, Fountain Hills. And so therefore, that's a representation of all this development that's happening, more roads happening, things are being built around us, you know, and it's around my culture, it's around my people, it's around my history. And so that's what I felt about the roads. And I see more people driving through the res nowadays due to the creation of Google Maps and all that stuff. People find shortcuts to the roads. So in Salt River, people are coming through consistently who are not outsiders, right? They're not non-community members. So that's what I see with those types of, like that painting, or that I think it's a digital image you saw. That one is what I was kind of thinking about. Is okay, this is all it feels crazy, like we're being shackled up by all these urban development and these roads. So if you remember that image, I think the hands were like this on the sides and the head's in the middle.
Yeah, the head was in the middle and the roads were all over.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking, almost like a guillotine.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the other one, so, I mean, I loved all of them, but I just in looking at those, I really liked the Nike too and all of that. I did see the medals that you created for U of A. But the Mount Rushmore, what's your take on that? Or what was the idea or thought behind that one?
So the Mount Rushmore image is my idea of merging both Native American and U.S. history with the horror genre. Because the Mount Rushmore, as you've seen, they're demons. And so I was kind of playing around with that concept of horror and also history.
I really like your pieces. I like the political commentary on them. I like the contemporary art. I like the colors. I love the baskets too, though. I like the tessellations and the patterns. I just can't imagine how much work went into those. So, Dwayne, do you have any favorite historical or current artists that you kind of get inspiration from, or?
I really enjoy the Dutch painter Hieronymus Bosch, most specifically the Garden of Earthly Delights painting. That's probably one of my favorite paintings of all time. Totally ahead of his time, and a crazy composition of it's almost like a surrealistic Where's Waldo even though there's no Waldo. It's just a depiction of Earth, heaven and hell. And the hell part is grim and also very exciting. So I draw huge inspiration when it comes to Hieronymus Bosch's compositions, especially in that painting, because there's so much going on, jam-packed, so much symbolism and metaphor going on. That's stuff I try to emulate in my work, is both symbology and metaphor. Not giving things making things so literal, but making people's brains work. Like, what does that mean? I like that type of stuff when it comes to my art.
Do you think a lot? So you would think, obviously, when you're planning a painting, if that's how you, I don't know, I'm not an artist, but I would assume if you're planning a painting, you would think about that and say, like, you give it thought. It's not like you just sit down at a canvas and just draw.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I had to think about it. It's a lot of cogitation going on and kind of processing. What is a clever way to get my message out there, but at the same time, not giving everyone... giving it to them on the silver platter. I want them to think too. I'm thinking. I want you to think too as well.
So I think your art's, like I know I've said, like, really beautiful. What about Salvador Dali? Do you think that I saw some similarities or kind of more abstract, any inspiration from him at all?
Yeah, I like Salvador Dali, especially earlier on. I think a lot of art students, when they're just getting into art and they're exposed to art history, they gravitate to surrealism because it's like the kind of mind warping type of artwork that just really makes you want to be an artist. And then once you get into it and you start learning more and you start to see all these other artists, because all art movements have gems in there, stuff that makes you think. And so I think surrealism, Salvador Dali, is like the first level when you get to art and you start figuring out what it is you're into. And I was the same way. And I still am, though. I enjoy a lot of surrealism because it makes you think. And there's also not a lot written. I mean, there's a lot written about them, but they're all just interpretations of their work. And I like that, too. It's not like set in stone what this artist wanted you to think. It's up to you on how you feel about the artworks.
Okay, cool. All right, I've got a question for you. Now that you talk about that, when you're painting something and you spent like 3 weeks or hundreds of hours, because I assume that you're painting, when you said like one of your paintings could take 3 weeks, I think you're probably doing that all day, every day, like more than a couple hours a day, right? Like some of those paintings are really elaborate and big and 40 layers, you said. And so is it sad or is it happy if you sell a painting and somebody buys it from you and they take it home? Is that like, do you go, oh my gosh, like I really wanted that. I want that in my house, or I want my mom to have that. Or is it like, wow, that's really cool. They're going to have that hanging in their house and they're going to look at that every day and think of me.
I used to be like that earlier on. Like I said, once I was out of the phase of just drawing for myself and throwing it away, then getting into art school and learning about masterpieces. And when I would finish a painting, I would hang it up and it'll stay there, right? And I was like, I got used to it. And I'm like, okay, I like this painting, But as I move forward here, I kind of remove myself from feeling that way about my paintings, because although I spent all this time and effort, emotion, spirituality into a artwork, it's also an idea that I have, right? And ideas are meant to be utilized, and then you go on to the next idea. So nowadays I have no problem getting rid of a painting, and then because I got a lifetime full of ideas that I need to advance on, and if I stick to just one and have it there, I think I'm going to be influenced by that same painting or drawing, whatever it is. And so I need to get it out of the way because I got more I need to explore. And I try to tell it to my students, because my students are like that. I have students in a gallery recently where they were kind of sad to put it in there, and then I told them, well, just up the price if you don't really want to sell it, or you don't have to sell it at all. But if it's a win-win if you do sell it, you know what I mean? But anyways, they students do like their work, and they say that they don't want to part with it. But I just tell them, listen, you got a long life ahead of you. When you have ideas, you need to get out. So in order for you to get to those ideas, you need to get rid of that idea. And so get the painting done, and then move on to the next idea.
but that's why you're a successful professor.
Yeah, I guess
and
so.
artist.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Because I'm probably one of those students. I like some of my stuff, and I want to keep it at home.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you have a favorite success story from one of your students? Like you just said, they showed at a gallery. Is that a really great feeling for you and a success story, or is it that they come back to you and say, like, "Oh my gosh, you changed my life," or "I sold my first painting"? What would be a success story?
I have, like I said, I love seeing my students walk across the stage with graduation, getting their degrees. I do also. It's a success for me when my students move on to the next step. Right, I have students who I don't see after they go through the program, and I'm not too sure what they're doing. But I do have students that also keep in touch with me, and they let me know what they're up to, or they ask me for. I'm very prideful when I get to write a recommendation letter for my students who are applying for either school or some kind of art opportunity. But I had a student recently, name's Chris Wan, TOCC from Thon, who has just finished his, I believe, second semester at the School of Art at U of A, which was cool because he told me when graduating at TLCC that he wants to keep going with his artwork. He actually quit his full-time job that he was there for like 15 years to go back to school and to learn about art more because that was his passion. And then to see him jump immediately to U of A, I was so proud to see that happen because, he's a community college. He didn't take a break. He went straight to, which is what I tell my students. I say, when they're done, I say no breaks. Keep going. Because that's what one of my professors told me when I graduated with my bachelor's degree at IEIA. He was like, all right, congratulations, Dwayne, no breaks. Which was his way of saying, just keep it going, keep it moving. You don't stop painting, don't stop drawing, don't stop learning. And so Chris, who was now at U of A finishing his second semester, that was definitely still a success story that's ongoing, and I can't wait to see him walk out of there with his bachelor's. So I told him to let me know when he graduates because I'll be there.
See? But that's all due to you.
Yeah, I think a little bit. Yeah, maybe.
That's pretty awesome. Well, listen, if you didn't foster that and encourage that, and the students didn't respect you, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I was looking through some of your social media, which is your site, is your Instagram, and your website's beautiful. I really like the pieces that you had in the Salt River Law and Justice Department. I think one was called a mesquite tree, and one was, I don't think it has a name. It talks about the visual arrangement representing the amalgam of traditional Otham law and justice with modern Western law and justice. And it's displayed at the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community Justice Center. So can you tell me, how did this come about? That one is the basket, and it's got the gavel. I think it's called the Gavel of Justice. But just beautifully, that one. And then the mesquite tree is where the mesquite breathes. And that was the exploration of deep, enduring relationship between the Otham and the mesquite tree. The diptych piece is currently at home to the Salt River HR Human Resources Mesquite Room at Two Waters. So they're both different. I think they're both different, but they're both beautiful. How did you come up with those? Did you design those specifically to live at Salt River in the tribal administrative buildings, or was it just you created it and thought it would be a great home for them and it kind of fit what they did? But just absolutely gorgeous pieces.
Yeah, so thank you. The Salt River Law and Justice pieces were specifically made for that building because that's where the courthouse is, that's where the lawyers are at, and that's where they do all the judges hang out. And so with that one, it was all just based off of what Otham law traditionally used to look like, and then merging that with Western law, which is what we're doing nowadays, right? And then where the mesquite tree breathes was actually a newer painting that I did this year, and it has to do with the Otham, because the Otham's relationship with the mesquite tree, because the mesquite tree is a tree that we used to live off of. We used to, we eat the beans, we eat the sap, and it's something that no one really practices that much anymore. Some people do, some people don't. But I needed to explore that more and let people know that this is our tree. This is what we used to, survive on back in the day.
So I'm out of time, and I'm so sad because I could talk to you forever. But how can our listeners find out more information about you, your artwork, and how can they contact you?
So my website is DwayneManuel.com. You can reach me there. That's my online portfolio. You can also reach me on social media, both Facebook and Instagram. My Facebook is Dwayne Manuel, and my Instagram is Dwayne Manuel Studio. And you can also catch me at the Tonalta Community College Phoenix Center, right here by Native Health. I'm in my office most of the time, with the exception for the summers, but you can also reach me there too.
And it's DWAYNE, right?
Correct. Yes.
Manuel.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I've had a great time. I've learned a lot, and your art's beautiful.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy. Sound engineer is Javier Quiroga. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listen2krdp.com.